Hello, my friends. Today I'm going to try and answer the most important question in AI-powered drug discovery. How do we measure R&D productivity of an AI drug discovery platform? Imagine that you are trying to compare one company against the other or one algorithm against the other. Today, what I want to convey to you is based on, of course, very standard chart from Stephen Paul's seminal paper in Nature Reviews Drug Discovery, where he described every step of drug discovery and development, explained the probabilities of success, the time it takes at every stage, and the approximate spending in millions of dollars on every stage. I just added target discovery here kind of to extend his chart. His chart starts with already very well-known target. This may take you decades, and the probability of success is 1 to 5%, if not lower, because like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, many IPF, many other diseases, we actually don't have a really good solution. AI-powered drug discovery should be evaluated by the time, cost, speed, and the probability of success, and also the novelty of this stage from 0 to developmental candidate. Why? Because here, just like with sports cars, you can accelerate from 0 to 100, but after that, there is a very regulated territory. So you have to move with the speed of traffic and cannot go faster than a traffic sign tells you. As a matter of fact, in our industry, if we were to go against the regulators in any way or be non-compliant, we would die because it's much more scrutinized than any other area. That is why we need to be overly compliant and ensure that we perform extremely well and do everything by the book after you enter IND-enabling stage. As a matter of fact, IND-enabling studies, for those of you who don't know, it's usually 28-day GLP, good laboratory practices, toxicity studies in at least 2 species, where you are establishing the base for the submission to the regulators in order to start human clinical trials. Even though it says 28 days, it's very misleading because the process usually takes you from 9 months to a year, usually closer to a year if you want to do it well, and costs you quite a bit of money. If you are going from 0 to developmental candidate, here you can significantly accelerate. And in Steve Paul's paper, he actually had very reasonable estimates. So if you actually already know your target, in traditional approach, it would take you about 4.5 years to get to IND enabling if you want to demonstrate absolutely best in class. If you are looking at China speed today, you can probably look at, you're looking at about 2 years, sometimes even faster without AI. But that's usually for targets that have already some compounds and that have assays, so you can actually perform the experimental validation pretty fast. So if you are going for a novel target, that process will usually take you a little bit longer because many of the assays have not been established. You actually need to develop validation assays in order to test the target. And also with novelty comes a lot of uncertainty. You're going to be debating with biologists and clinicians whether it's worthwhile to even take it. So many of them have seen something similar and they will try to kill what AI has predicted. So sometimes if you want to go high novelty, so like our TNIC program that has never been in the clinic before with no chemical matter out there that we could actually modify. So there it might take you longer. So we actually demonstrated we can go from here to here in 18 months. And we've done it several times. And then we actually demonstrated that we can go from here to here in 9 months. And our typical is about 13 months. So I think that what most players in our industry do not realize is that we need to count the times we reached PCC. So basically, nowadays, I'll just explain the current economics. If you are not going for an absolutely novel target, usually this step would take you, if you don't fail and if everything runs smoothly, it will take you about maybe $3 million to $5 million in a highly competitive space where we also need to synthesize every possible competitor that we've identified from patents and run them all the way, for example, into monkeys. This could be a little bit more expensive. So it might be, $10 million and a little bit longer because you're trying to establish best in class and identify new properties that for the molecule. Otherwise, you won't be able to license it out. But then this is always about 9 months to a year. And it used to be like at least 3 million, 3.5 million. Nowadays, if you are using cheaper contract research organizations in Asia that are, again, compliant and have all the certificates, it might take you like $2 million. And then this will highly depend on the disease area. But the numbers are, of course, also smaller. So phase 1 can put you down in like ballpark, maybe 10, 15 million. Phase 2 will put you down maybe $30 million, depending on what kind of disease you're going after, maybe 50, sometimes even more. Phase 3 is easily 100 million plus, right? And later we have never seen or calculated anything, but I'm pretty sure this figure is probably inflated. So this part is actually much better performed by the pharmaceutical companies. They have much better clinical teams, much wider networks, even when they're enrolling the patients with a lot of key opinion leaders out. Just even having a big pharma brand helps you generate enrollment, gives you more credibility, and even the patients are more likely to enroll into the study because just of the brand. And also the pharmaceutical companies actually really do have good experience doing this. So companies like ours, to develop a clinical team and run those clinical trials, in theory, we shouldn't be doing that. We had to develop a big pipeline, now 11 programs we have our clinical stage, in order to demonstrate to the pharmaceutical companies that it's possible. But in reality, I don't think we should be doing this. The most ideal situation for us is to license out while we're in IND-enabling or even before that. Because if we can demonstrate this probability of success and this significant cost down and acceleration, the pharmaceutical companies, in theory, should trust us over time. Guess what? Most of them still don't, because either they're not using ChatGPT or Gemini at the top management level, or people are taking them for what I like to call Pinocchio walks, where a company comes to them with a new technology and a bunch of fancy board members and scientific advisory board members tell the story, and you get a collaboration announcement from a company that I know, for example, extremely well, and they have nothing. It's just a PowerPoint with a little bit spiced up with maybe a couple algorithms. Sometimes those companies are being engineered by very well-known venture capital studios that basically spin those companies out like a mill, betting on specific trends. Some of them work over long term, but most of them don't. And I think that the way to evaluate any engine or any company, it doesn't matter whether you're AI or not, is the number of developmental candidates that you've developed, and also the number of developmental candidates that you managed to license out. Because usually at this stage, if you are licensing out, you are going to have 60, 70 people from the licensors side, evaluating the quality of your data room. So, and very often they have been working on a similar target before, and they have a lot of experience. Uh, that's why even one no or one maybe can completely kill a deal. So you would be presenting to many, many companies, and somebody just doesn't like the target, the program dies. They don't like some molecular property in dog, even though it's maybe not even relevant, you just do it for data generation, that you will kill the program. It will kill the deal. So if you actually manage to license a few of those, it shows that they are ultra high quality and they passed the rigorous testing that the party that is acquiring the molecule performed. Especially if it is not a big pharma, but moderate stage, medium-sized pharma, they would go to extreme length to evaluate the molecules, but then they are much more likely to put much more resources into the program, increasing the probability of success down the road. So one thing I want to explain is that the way to measure AI drug discovery productivity is just look at the amount of money going in a single year and the number of developmental candidates going out. And the money going in, you can basically look at if the company is public or if it is talking to you about the financials, and actually ask, okay, well, what is the actual R&D budget for preclinical? And just divide it by the number of PCCs developed. And then if you like to have a better formula, just multiply it by the number of drugs out licensed. That is, of course, the really major pivotal point. Everything downstream is very, very, very regulated. So you would not see much acceleration. And of course, if you have done many of those and they have progressed to phase 2 complete, it shows you that the quality of those PCCs is very reasonable. And another thing is that the more PCCs you do regularly, the better the molecules become, the better the algorithms become. They become more validated. And that gives you much more confidence in the AI platform. Gives us more confidence in the AI platform. We can do more difficult tasks nowadays. So that is the real delta. Very often when I'm looking at teams that come to us to, let's say, even acquire their companies, I'm asking, okay, well, how many DCs did you produce? Some of them say, okay, well, 1 or 2. And where this magic happens, where you have many, many developmental candidates, is actually China. So one of the areas where people understood R&D productivity is China. Before, they were basically a service country where you could go and produce multiple drugs very, very quickly on contract. Now, you would expect many contract research organizations to start discovering their own drugs. No, it's actually local biotechs that are starting to set records. And also, what is surprising to me, local large pharma companies, many of them have reinvented themselves completely and started discovering drugs at scale previously unseen anywhere else in the world with a reasonable quality levels. That's why if you actually want to compete in this field, my recommendation is to compete in China with the Chinese companies, head to head, because they have very, very precise benchmarks for 0 to DC. Then, of course, there are also, some of them are extremely good in clinic. And I think it's very important to be benchmarking yourself consistently and playing against the champions instead of just trying to develop fancy algorithms that might solve just 1 or 2 or 3 problems within the entire therapeutic pipeline. So my recommendation is that 0 to developmental candidate should be the ultimate benchmark for AI-powered drug discovery. Everything else, you are moving with the speed of traffic.